welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, we are live again from downtown cinemas to talk about Death of a Unicorn, the new horror comedy from A24 starring Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd. And I've got a great lineup of guests with me. I've got Tia Bean, Angel C, and Jake Gonzalez. We get into a lot of great stuff on this one. Had a fun crowd who was super into the conversation, and these live shows are always just so much fun. Speaking of live shows, we will be back at Downtown Cinemas this week, 2 in 1 week. We are going to be there for Screamboat on Thursday, April 3rd, 6 p.m. Got a great lineup for that one. It's going to be a really fun show. If you're in Las Vegas, it's actually CinemaCon, so hey, you might even be in from out of town. We'd love to see you there, so come on out for Screamboat this Thursday. But before we get to today's episode on Death of a Unicorn, I want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on social media at PiecingPod, and don't forget to join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. So with that said, let's get into Death of a Unicorn. All right, so I'm David Rosen, the host of the Piecing It Together podcast. We're going to talk about the movie we just watched, Death of a Unicorn. But before we get into it, I want to introduce my hosts here. Tia Bean back on the show. Tia, introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Tia. I'm a unicorn today.
Yeah.
I'm a dead unicorn. I'm so excited. I'm a local actress and weirdo, and I like to do cool stuff and be in cool things and talk about cool stuff. So yeah, that's me.
Absolutely. This seems like a really good one to get you on, and obviously you came prepared. So yeah, for sure. Angel C returning to the podcast. Angel, introduce yourself.
What's up, everyone? My name is Angel Contreras. I am a filmmaker, director, and podcaster. And thank you for having me back on. This one was an interesting one, so I'm having a hard time trying to place. But we'll see. We'll see what we come up with.
I'm sure we'll come up with something here. So Jake Gonzalez over there. How's it going, Jake?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just happy to be back. Thank you for the opportunity once again. And what I do basically is I just write reviews for films, and I just enjoy watching films in general. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, happy to have you back on the show. So getting into this movie, like I don't know. I really did not know what to expect because right from the get-go, Death of a Unicorn and like kind of the tongue-in-cheek kind of styling of what they seem to be going for, it could really fall flat or kind of actually be awesome. It really just depended on how they kind of made this thing work. And I'm still not 100% sure on how I feel about it, but I guess we'll talk about that as we're getting into it. But on this show, for anyone who hasn't heard it before, we talk about a movie through the lens of what other movies might have inspired it, and we call those movies puzzle pieces. And there's one that I think we should just kind of throw out there right to begin with because it's been in a lot of the marketing, and I think it's very, very apt. It's Jurassic Park. I mean, we're talking about these people doing something with nature that they really should not be doing in a remote location, and everything, of course, goes to hell because that's what happens when you mess with nature. And then the whole time I was wondering, like, when are they going to have to turn the power back on or something like that? And of course, that they go there too. But I was really hoping, because there was even like a kind of comment earlier in the movie that I hope we hit Bigfoot on the way out or something. I was really hoping there'd be more creatures, more
dinosaur actually
just
show up.
More stuff like that.
That's for the sequel.
Yeah, I guess so. The sequel to this movie. But yeah, so you guys are all also thinking Jurassic Park too.
Oh,
on
that's
this.
so on the nose. Like even the cart where she's under the car, and
Yep.
it's like reminded me so much of Jurassic Park, and this like sometimes even the stance of the unicorn walking through the hallways was like very much like the T-Rex.
Yeah, they even had the hunter with the big gun, the woman. Yeah, she was like totally like the one guy, the clever girl guy, and all that stuff. And I think you can even go to some of the later Jurassic Park movies when they start. Like this is a total aside, but the second Jurassic World movie, I thought they were going to get into all kinds of cloning shit and stuff. They never really went in that direction.
Also, the mother in the film was the lady in Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Tia Leoni. Yeah, so she was actually one of the best parts of the movie. But yeah, absolutely. That's a good pull there too. So, but yeah, let's go on to some other stuff. Tia, what do you got for your first one?
Okay, so I want to say that I loved a lot of this movie's like history, and so other than being like an actress. Like I also have a true crime podcast, and I'm just like basic girl that loves true crime and listens to like unsolved mysteries to go to sleep and everything. So like I do like to tie the movie into like some historical reality stuff, and then I swear I'll go off on a tangent and I'll get to my piece. But I really liked how they did talk about some real histories. The Seven Tapestries, The Hunt of the Unicorn came out, or was they were made in 1495. But like the whole story of the unicorn, like our view of the unicorn is like kind of like how I'm dressed, like tutu, white,
Sure.
eat Skittles, you know, like it's a girly thing. Lisa Frank, like that's our idea of like unicorns. But like the original unicorn, like throughout history and the stories of the unicorn is very much more like what they depicted in this movie.
Okay.
Of it being like this terrifying monster with the serrated horn. And stories of this started it like the Greeks told this like original story. But throughout history, the story kind of changed and evolved. And a lot of the story of the unicorn got passed down through something called the Silk Road, which was like where they would trade silks, but they'd also trade like medicinal substances, and like they even traded ground up unicorn horn, which I thought was so cool that they depicted it in this movie.
Yeah.
And like in reality, it probably wasn't a unicorn horn. It was probably like a narwhal tusk. Which I found out, okay, gross thing, another tangent. I found out that narwhal tusks are actually teeth. It's like a tooth that comes out of the upper jaw. Okay.
What,
cool.
like go through or something?
Yeah, super gross.
Oh, nice.
And I'm a total nerd, so I thought that was so interesting, and I had to say it. Now I feel weird for saying it, but
I like it.
But anyway, so like the Silk Road, they sold like drugs, and this movie was also about like greed and drugs and like wanting to create a commodity out of something that should never be packaged.
Yeah.
You know, and Silk Road also had like its modern day counterpart in the early 2000s. Silk Road came about again on the dark web.
Right.
Yeah, and they were selling actual drugs, which I think is such a cool parallel to this movie, you know. But as we know it, like we all know collectively for some reason, like you don't mess with unicorns. And somewhere along history, probably around medieval times with the Seven Tapestries, people really realized or the story came about where it's like the maiden and the innocents, and you don't mess with unicorns, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know where I'm getting now. I'm very caffeinated right now. So from my childhood, the first depiction of a story that talks about like the maiden and how fragile and precious the unicorn is, and was like a warning in my life, like if I ever came across a unicorn, like not to destroy it or whatever, should that ever happen, like if I ever was in this movie scenario, I would know, you know, not to do what they did.
Yeah.
So was now I gotta flip through my pages here. The Rankin Bass movie, The Last Unicorn.
Last Unicorn.
Finally, I got there.
I figured that's where you were heading with all that. I really did. Yeah.
Which came out in 1982, which was before I was born. Traumatized me as a child. Like I was afraid like the Red Bull was gonna get me and all that stuff. And like some of that movie's like really disturbing. I like rewatched it recently, and it's I don't know, it's a really terrible movie, but like the music is terrible, and Mia Farrow can't sing at all. But yeah, it is. It's musical. Yeah, you should watch it.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah. It's wild, and yeah, it's traumatized like a generation of young people, like seriously. But yeah, it's interesting though, like going to some of that true stuff that you were just talking about, and going into like all of these kind of fairy tale like stories that end up coming from some little kernel of truth into something that is just super dark, and then into something that is really like pretty and fancy and whatnot, like the fairy tales, the Disney stuff and whatnot. And then we eventually come back around. We're about to do a Screamboat episode next week on the Mickey Mouse horror movie. So like everything just comes around to becoming horror at some point, and that's where we are here with Death of a Unicorn.
I mean, as it should be.
As it should be. So yeah, but yeah, Last Unicorn, great piece to bring into this. Angel, let's go to one from you.
So talking about the greed and the the rich people that want to just use every part of that animal, or the creature. I thought of Okja Akio. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a Japanese movie or Korean movie.
Korean, yeah. Bong Joon-ho.
It came out on Netflix about the pig, the super pig
Oh,
that
that's good.
they're hunting them down and they're trying to kill them. And then
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
girl that's also trying to save it. So it kind of related to that. And I think that and Jurassic Park are the only ones I could think of.
Well, hey, we'll see if you come up with another
But,
one along the
yeah,
way. But that's a
yeah.
great one, though. It's a great one to include here. And it's funny, during this movie, I kept thinking of Mickey 17, Bong Joon-ho's most recent movie. I felt there was a lot of parallels between the two. But I think maybe it's just something that, Bong Joon-ho, always very anti-capitalist,
Right.
very anti-everything going on in that kind of area. And so I think it makes sense that Okja would come up here. Yeah, really good one to bring up. So, let's go to one from you over there, Jake.
Well, it's interesting that you said Okja because I was thinking Parasite, but then I was gonna be like, well, Parasite has nothing to do with like until the end, like murders and all that. So I wasn't gonna really go there. And when it comes to all this like corporate greed kind of stuff, Jurassic Park was like actually the perfect puzzle piece.
Right.
Which is like the first when you said that, like we're all thinking it, and then you said Jurassic Park, I'm like, okay, of course. But I also thought of a film like E.T., which it's not like about corporate greed, but it's about like finding something that's like a little mythical. Not everyone knows that it exists. And also another comparison to that too, which probably has nothing to do with it, but the main character's name is Elliot also. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
kind of just thought of it like that, and I thought I could, compare those two films together in that way. So
Yeah, no, nice pull there with the names there as well. And yeah, I think I wish that's another like kind of problem I have with this movie. I wish we got some scenes of Elliot alone with the unicorn and interacting with, like, clearly wanting to, but it just doesn't quite happen. We don't really
Yeah.
get those scenes. And I
like
think
his
that would've
arc
been
is
more
like kind of
fun.
like the kind of father that he's too weak to really like reconcile with his daughter.
Yeah.
And that whole relationship between him and his daughter, I kind of thought it was a little bit stuck in, a place where it couldn't really like be elevated because it was more concerned with like being like a horror film at the end when it was a lot better when it was just about a film about capitalism and corporate greed and stuff like that. And then the whole rest of the half just becomes a horror film, which we all knew we were in for that. But I think the first half of this film worked a lot better.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough.
I feel
think.
like E.T. also works with the scene where they're like dissecting the unicorn in like the tent and the hazmat suits.
Yeah,
reminded
the
me a lot
hazmat
of
suits,
E.T.
exactly,
as
yeah.
well.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely that fits in there really well. I will go, let's see, what should I go with? I'm going to go with Alien, like the overall Alien series. I think Dr. Wayland wanting to, explore these planets and all for the purpose of basically saving himself, just like Richard E. Grant here wants immediately to take this whole situation that he's just randomly found himself in and use it for his own self, and then immediately gets murdered by the things that they found. I thought that was really great. And I mean, it's fun to see the billionaire get stabbed by the unicorn, and so, but then also, there's a lot of shots too of these unicorns. There's like the one that's in the trailer and on the poster and all that kind of stuff. Which, by the way, we have posters to give away later. But there's that shot in this that reminds me of the xenomorph like closing in on Ripley from the side there and stuff like that. I think some of that is done totally on purpose, and then just like a lot of world building here. Some of it coming from real life, like some of the stuff that that Tia was bringing up, but then some of it just made up for the movie, and some fun world building in here. The Alien movies are just impeccable in the stuff that they've put together in that entire series. So that was something I was thinking about. Any of you guys thought Alien at all in here?
Yeah, definitely that shot, and then a lot of the teasing when you don't really see the unicorn in the beginning.
Sure.
I mean, you're seeing like shots here and there of them like running by, and kind of like Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Jurassic Park imagery, especially too, with like the way they're depicting the unicorns. It literally felt like velociraptors sometimes. So.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, they go together. So
Running down the
well.
hallway, coming
Yeah.
through the doors.
Oh yeah, totally, absolutely. Tia, let's go to another one from you.
So I feel like I'm gonna really date myself with these movies, which are all three of my pieces. If I get to my next one after this, are all like very nostalgic from my childhood pieces. And there's something about running through a mansion, down the hallway, away from really bad CGI, and like the acting is just a little bit too much for how not scary the CGI is. That really felt nostalgic and like at home to me and brought me back to The Haunting.
The Haunting.
Yeah,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
is absolutely my childhood, was all those like castle remake movies of
Sure.
like 13 Ghosts and like House on Haunted Hill and The Haunting, which I remember as a kid, like still not really being scared of The Haunting because the CGI was just so like plasticky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was very disappointed in the CGI in this movie, and it just definitely felt like that movie quite a bit, where the actors are like not actually being chased by, well, obviously they're not being chased by a unicorn, but like you can kind of tell that they're being chased by like a tennis ball on a stick, you know?
Yeah.
Trying really hard to pretend like they're afraid of it, and it's just like, I don't know, just brought me back to that for some reason. Also, like, like the corporate, like the rich guy, is like testing all of the like test subjects, in The Haunting, and like it's his mastermind. But yeah,
I think
definitely that.
I think I would have liked this movie so much more if it was a little more campy and like really leaned into that, and like it was just, we're making a movie about killer unicorns. Like, let's just go for it. You know what I mean? I think it would have been a lot more fun. But yeah, I think The Haunting and like that era, like you said, of those remakes of the Hammer stuff, like that, they're not great. But
yeah. I mean,
but we love
13
them.
Ghosts is a perfect movie.
Sure.
And The Haunting is just like, so like you have to, like, I watch it way more than I should. Like, it's in my VCR like way too much.
Nice.
But mostly because it's just so ridiculous, and I yell at my screen a lot when I like watch that movie, because like so many parts of it are just like, why do we need to see the baby again? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to another one. Angel, you think of something else over there?
Yeah, when he brought up ET, I was thinking of like, what if this movie involved the government? And then I thought of Transformers when he when he finds like the Transformer, trying to hide it from, trying to figure out what it is, and you get into the whole history of that. So it's kind of a lot of the movies that I thought of were like, someone that finds an alien or a monster. And
Sure.
There's a bunch of those movies, but they're not coming to my head right now. But I thought Transformers there.
When we get back around, maybe another one. But no, I think that's fun. And I also, one of my favorite parts of this movie is that she prints out everything on those giant printers. That was just a ridiculous little touch. But that reminds me of like, I don't know, I haven't seen the Transformers in a while, but like, don't they like find information about the Transformers, some like giant scroll or something that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of that too. So that's a funny pull there. I like that. Jake, let's go to another one.
So there was a mentioning of Bigfoot, so I just thought Harry and the Hendersons, even though that was like a
Sure.
comedy. But Harry and the Hendersons it took a better approach. I know it wasn't a horror film at all, but like it was okay with kind of being silly and like very absurd in the idea that like, okay, there's no way that Bigfoot exists, but I guess he's here. So the whole unicorn thing, like, yeah, maybe they did take it a little bit too seriously, but in that, it was a horror film. So comparing it to Harry and the Hendersons is a little wild, but I'm just saying, just because it's two like mythical animals.
Yeah.
And Harry and the Hendersons are a pretty good example in my opinion.
Doesn't it start with hitting Harry with the car too? Like in the
If I remember
movie?
correctly.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen it in many years,
Yeah.
but that might be, yeah. Oh, interesting. Nice
It's a good piece.
tag teaming the Harry and the Hendersons piece. I love it. That's great. I'll go to one I was thinking about as the movie was ending, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, because they find basically a secret to eternal life, but like the whole thing is that they have to let it go basically, and otherwise they're all going to die. And that seems like, an obvious lesson. Like if you're trying to go for that thing, like it's probably not worth it. It's just not going to work out. But yeah, in the end of the Last Crusade, with the whole thing with the cup, and he's got to let it go, or else he's gonna die. And so that seems like a very similar idea here that they're kind of exploring, and in the world of mixing mystical and actual medicine, because this is a pharmaceutical company. So getting a little bit of both kind of ends of that in there. But yeah, Last Crusade is just one I want to throw in there. But let's go to another from you, Tia.
I have two really good ones.
Okay.
So I'm going to say both of them.
All right.
The first one, and the one that is going to date me, is Tremors, and Tremors 2, particularly when the tremors are like above ground. But that was like my first introduction to like comedy being horror, but like also like a legit monster
Sure.
that like looks really good. Only they used practical effects and they looked amazing, and the monster was way better. And Kevin Bacon,
Of
even though
course.
he's not in the second one, but I'd have to say Tremors. Also, shout out to Reba McEntire because she's a fucking badass in that movie.
Hell yeah.
But a real one that I think is really on the nose and is much, much more recent would be Krampus.
Okay.
Yeah, where it's like, and a lot of the shots too, where like you don't really know what it is, and you hear the creak outside, and then someone's like, "Oh, we shouldn't have messed with the thing," and there's like this warning of that something ancient is gonna like come back and like teach us a lesson. Definitely felt like this movie. So yeah.
It's so funny that you're bringing Krampus up because I mean it makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
But before the movie, I was basically, I always have a few things written down just in case I don't think of anything on the spot. And I was trying to think of some stuff, and I was like, oh, it's a reindeer, so it's like a Christmas movie, and I'm like, it's not a fucking reindeer. What am I talking about? So, but yeah, so I guess we got a Christmas movie in there anyway. So yeah,
exactly.
I love it.
And like this movie and Tremors and Krampus are all like really great ensemble pieces.
Yeah.
With some really standout, amazing comedians. Like comedians in horror too, I always think are so good because they either like make it campy, make it funny, and then can play up the horror, or they're like actually like terrifying. Like when a comedian plays a serial killer, it's like, ooh, yeah, it can be really, really creepy. But anyways, that's a tangent.
I love it. Love it. Angel, anything else over there?
Yeah, so jumping off the ensemble cast thing, it kind of reminded me, like I kind of wish they had more people in the mansion because it kind of reminded me of Knives Out, like
Yeah.
a terrible
Yeah,
script
yeah,
of
yeah.
Knives Out.
Yeah.
Because like their dialogue wasn't as great, but then the son, like his comedy was like the best part of the film, I think. Him
Sure.
and the mom were like, the way they played off each other.
Mm.
And I think if there was more characters there, they could have gone more crazy with like the deaths, like with the unicorns killing each person. So I think like it kind of reminded me of that, but it wasn't just not as good.
Yeah, I was hoping going into this it would be more like Knives Out. That was something I kind of got from the trailer,
Yeah.
but it didn't really go there. And at the end, when there's the shootout, there's all these other characters, and it's like they could have been characters throughout, and then we'd have more people with guns to get killed and stabbed and all this stuff. So
There was little things that popped up that were really funny, like Griff. Every
Yeah.
time the Griff and him in the bathtub, like there was little things there
Yeah.
that they could have done a lot more with.
yeah,
And maybe if there was more characters, they could have helped.
yeah.
But it was like doing too much with like that was doing too many things.
I pretty much thought all the side characters were so much funnier than anything happening in the main story, and
Yeah.
so like that's where you kind of got the best stuff in this
Yeah.
movie. But yeah, let's go to one more from Jake.
So just because of the fact of like the experimental drugs in here, like I just want to say Limitless because they could have made like Richard Grant like really like insanely strong or something, but I guess he was just like cured and like back to normal, I guess, and not like he doesn't have a superpower or anything, but I feel like it could have maybe went to like a superhero-esque kind of genre, but it didn't go there.
Yeah.
But still, it's Limitless kind of. So.
But the son became a genius after he was snorting it.
Yeah,
He
he
was
did.
hot.
It went straight to the brain. So
I
yeah,
wish
he
they
was
would have
hot.
leaned into that more, and
Yeah.
if he was like a super villain, and they could have made him way scarier,
Yeah.
that would have been
Yeah.
so much fun. Yeah, they could have went so many different directions with that, and like because I really liked that in the beginning when they got the blood on them and it was like healing them and stuff, and then like healing Richard Grant and like yeah, there's so many directions they could have went where it would have gotten more magical, more supernatural, and could have been really fun to go in some of those directions. But
Yeah, it's like they tried so many things because like the healing thing, and then there was a part where Jenna Ortega goes into like she can see the unicorn running down the forest.
yeah,
Where did that go? It
Yeah.
didn't come back at all. So it was they were trying so many things, and
yeah.
it's weird.
Absolutely. But yeah, Limitless. That's I did not expect that one to come up. But very good. I like that a lot. So I'd love to open it to the floor, see if we have any puzzle pieces out here. And we do have some posters to give away for anybody who has something for us here. But we got one right here.
I thought it was very similar to Brave, Pixar's Brave.
Brave.
So you have a daughter who's at odds with her parents, and Brave is her mom, but she also happens to be an archer, so there's archery.
Sure.
And then the mom obviously gets turned into a bear, so the monster kind of thing. They're trying to hunt it down, and then at the end there's a bigger, stronger bear, like the evil bear, and they have that big fight, and he's fighting with the mom, and then even at the end that bear kind of gets like kind of justice because like his soul gets set free, and like he gets redeemed how the unicorns turn white. So I just thought those were very similar.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that. That's a great one. And any of you guys fans of Brave over here?
I mean, I thought it was an underwhelming film, but definitely a great puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, Brave is all right. This is better Pixar films, but it's a great puzzle piece.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else over here? We got one right over here.
Just because of like the mix of comedy and there's like that little bit of horror in there, at least like the deaths and stuff like that. It's just very gruesome.
Yeah.
It made me think of two movies actually. There's Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead.
Mix of comedy and then just gore.
Yeah.
And then here's one freaking Eight-Legged Freaks. Remember that?
Yeah.
So
It made me think of that. Like that movie was just hilarious to me, and it's just like, again, you're being chased by overgrown giant freaking tarantulas. And it's just
absolutely.
like, for anybody who's like obviously like afraid of like spiders, that's probably like the most horrifying movie. But to me, it's just hilarious.
Oh yeah, it is freaking hilarious. And like we were talking about the CGI earlier, and like I was kind of going into this because I thought from the trailer the CGI didn't really look that good, and it didn't really impress me here either. But like I was kind of wondering if this was going to lean into that like bad CGI sci-fi horror monster movie kind of thing. You know what I mean? And Eight-Legged Freaks, kind of not the great version of that, but like the middle tier version of that. You know what I mean? Versus the a Sharknado or bad CGI. What is it called? Bad CGI Gator or something like that. But any of those kind of things. But Eight-Legged Freaks is so much fun though, and Shaun of the Dead's an amazing movie. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Like I said, it's just like it's just random. Like I remember I only just heard about this movie like maybe 2 weeks ago, and just on film Twitter, people were just talking about it. I'm like, that's random.
Yeah.
Killer unicorns.
I think that's what they're hoping for people to hear. Death of a unicorn, and then
And that's
show
not
up.
bad. It was just like, screw it, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I'll watch that. I'll watch that movie. I think you had a hand up too?
Yeah, I had the exact same thought about Krampus. Like literally the teeth, the hoofs, everything. Like I don't know why. It was like the same thing. Was like this is just gives me Krampus style for some reason. But kind of piggybacking on what Angel said, it like left some open-ended things for me that I was just like, where's this going? What's the point of it? So if like the kid was actually magically a freaking genius, wouldn't he have figured out that it's the freaking horn that they need? Like that's what they're looking for. Wouldn't he have like, if you're trying to save yourself, why not go for the horn? Like it's just like if you're supposedly that smart.
But he was being greedy.
I
He
know,
wanted
but
to
at the same
catch 'em.
time, like what? It's just I don't know. I thought that's like too. But they didn't put it in the movie that he figured that out.
Right.
They had to be like, I know this is what they need, but I'm gonna choose to take it. That's different. He's just being himself. But they didn't even put it that he figured that out. So it's like, and you're a genius? Okay.
Maybe he's just so stupid that like he thought he was a genius now, but
Normal
yeah,
level
yeah,
of
normal, yeah.
intelligence. He
Yeah.
thinks he's a genius. And then so like the visions never came back. So there was absolutely like, what was the point of that? And then I didn't get the part like the whatever cloud that created this universe, galaxy looking thing, and then it just explodes. Oh, sorry, dust itself off, and then just ran off. Like, what was that? Like, I thought something would happen. Like, if you're creating this magical thing, or like something, anything, the residue of what happens with is hit with that blast. But no, it's just kind of like. It's just kind of like random open-ended things that I'm like, I don't get it. But then again, it is, like you said, a unicorn freaking movie. Like, what do you expect, to like happen? Like, there's no right or wrong. It's just throw some shit in there, and it's just part of being a unicorn. I don't know.
The writer needed to read more of those scrolls that Tia brought up, and maybe would have gotten some more ideas or something,
Yeah.
But
I mean, I just Googled, so
yeah,
there you go. He could have.
they could have Googled. They
Yeah.
could have Googled.
I was
So.
gonna say, just to add one more thing, I could maybe because we missed like a little small portion of the movie. When Jenna was like looking back at her photos and stuff like that, I think it was her mom that she was looking at.
Yeah.
She zooms in on the background, and there's like the picture of like the unicorn like in the background. Yeah, from the tapestry, and it's just like I always wonder like, okay, what's the relation like to that? Like I know that the unicorn was like, I guess choosing her to like try to connect with her for some reason. Maybe that was that, but I wish they dove in a little bit more. Like, is there like a history like between like
With
her
the
family,
mom,
her
with the
lineage, the
mom,
mom, like what are the connections?
They kept leaning in on the mom thing. The mom. Like, okay, did the mom freaking come from a unicorn family? Like, what is it? What is it? Why did they keep bringing up the mom here? And there's nothing. They just never connected that. They never drove it home. So it's like
Yeah.
another open-ended throwaway.
It's
There's
just
a-
bad writing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Any other pieces out here? We got one right here.
Well, it's like you said with the alien. So her name was Ridley, and in
Oh.
Alien it's Ripley.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's and then you got the side shot there of it's coming close, like somebody said, the tight shot with the mouth opening and
Yeah.
staring into the mouth.
Yeah, they do that in the video game Metroid also. Instead of Ripley, it's Ridley. But anyway. Anything else over here? Anybody else before we? Oh, we got one more.
One more thing. The tapestry was a huge part of why I chose my piece as well. In the movie, she has to like fix the tapestry of her and her mom.
For Brave.
In Brave.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and also, Never-Ending Story when Falcor's chasing him at the end, and he's like, the unicorns are white, he's white. They're like, right next to him. They're looking over their shoulder at him. So I thought that was a total connection there.
Love it. Love it. Never ending story. Fantastic. I wanted to throw in one other one actually. Cabin in the Woods. There was a killer unicorn in that movie. So maybe this is taking the killer unicorn from Cabin in the Woods and expanding it into a full movie. They didn't have enough to really expand it, but that's
Maybe
that's-
they're in the same universe.
could be. Could actually be. So let's get into some closing thoughts here. Tia, anything else you want to mention about this movie?
I liked it enough, but it fell flat so many times for me. I still liked it, and I'll probably watch it again, and maybe be an evil unicorn for Halloween. Who knows?
Nice.
But I felt like the gore was very gory, but somehow still very underwhelming. There was never any like close-up shots. The practical effects were so minimal. They only used actual big animatronic unicorns at the very, very end.
Yeah.
The fur looked so unrealistic throughout the whole thing, and that really threw it for me. And they didn't make it campy enough to lean into the bad effects. Krampus, let's bring it up again, has really bad CGI.
Sure, yeah.
The gingerbread men are terrible, but other parts of it are really good. And I remember when I first watched that movie, I was like, what is going on? But the more I watched it, the more I liked it. And the more I was like, oh, okay, I can look past that. It's supposed to be cheesy.
Sure.
So hopefully, maybe I'll, I did actually watch this movie twice already. So, which is,
Tia tends to do that when she's on the show.
it's anxiety. Otherwise, I wouldn't have slept last night. I would have been freaking out and thinking oh my God, you're going to sound so dumb tomorrow.
You did great. You did great.
And then I did it anyways. But yeah, maybe the more I watch this, I'll like it more. I don't know, but I don't know. With it being so bloody and gory, it just wasn't enough for me for some reason. So
to
I don't know.
those effects, this is the second horror movie this year where they're handing out flashlights. It was Wolfman in January, which we also did a live show here at Downtown Cinemas, where they're handing out flashlights, and I'm like, I wish they would have had those flashlights while they were filming this movie because it's
dark.
so
Dark.
dark.
Way too dark, yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
see any of the gore in this movie.
Way too dark.
That's what I was
So
gonna say.
dark.
It was dark when
Yeah.
all the stuff was happening,
It's
and I think it's because of the CGI.
yeah, they want to
How do you
cover
make-
that
how do you
up.
Make it, to cover it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could tell that Jenna Ortega's wig was really bad in the daytime when I got to the daytime shots.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like Hard Eyes was really dark too. We
yeah.
talked about that.
We did.
Actually, no. I said on Hard Eyes that I didn't feel like it was too dark, but everyone else said it was too dark.
That's true. We did. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Angel, anything else you wanted to say here?
No, I think we covered it. I think it's good enough. It's a good, give it a C plus. But I think they could have gone in many different directions. And I think if they would have figured it out, when they were writing it, it would have been a lot better. But the funny parts were good enough for me that it was okay.
Yeah, there were some good laughs, especially
Yeah.
from William Poulter, the son.
And I think it's
good.
also like an original script for the most part. I think it's that's what I like seeing about these movies. They're new, they're
Yeah.
different, they're weird. So more of that.
Yeah, first time director too. I don't have his name
I was
written
looking
down.
him up and I was like, what has he
Yeah.
done?
Yeah. So, Jake, anything?
So, I can appreciate dumb fun, but not when dumb fun's annoying, because I just thought the black comedy hasn't been perfected in such a long time, especially in America. So like, I was kind of annoyed with like a lot of the characters. I mean, the writing was really subpar. I mean, as a horror film, I do think that there was enough gore and like action to get around, but at the same time, like, that turn it took from being like kind of a commentary on capitalism and greed and stuff, and then just going into like, okay, let's make it a horror film and do world building that is just filled with plot holes. Like, I just didn't really appreciate that. And then also Paul Rudd. Who else does not like Paul Rudd? Because I definitely do not like him. Like, he's very, very
love
annoying.
Paul Rudd, but I did not like him here at all. I thought he was just so miscast in this. But
Yeah, he
I love
miscast
him.
horribly.
Yeah.
Miscast horribly.
Yeah, no, it did not belong in this movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, a lot of those points I do agree with. Even though I mean, I had enough fun with this movie, but definitely did not love it. But
Yeah.
it's a mix of ideas, and none of them kind of go far enough. Like we were saying, it could have been campier, it could have been more gory, it could have been more ridiculous, but doesn't quite get to any of those places. But yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap this one up. Tia, where can people find you?
You can follow me on my socials at Tia's the Coolest on Instagram. You can find me around town. Maybe you'll see me in an immersive activation or two around
Nice.
town. Also, if you are a horror filmmaker, cast me in your movie. I always want to die in movies, so I like to add them to my list, and I've had a few really cool deaths in my lifetime. So, yeah. But yeah.
Hell yeah. Maybe we'll get a unicorn goring you at
Oh
some
my
point.
God, that'd be so cool.
That would rock. I'd watch that movie. Angel, how about you?
So my name is Angel. You can find me on Instagram at angel_film_goals. And I'm a filmmaker, so check out my film 14 Days on YouTube. And I also have a podcast, the Film Goals Podcast, where I interview creatives, actors, filmmakers, directors, all sorts of creatives. And then you can find out on YouTube at filmgoalspodcast.com or Film Goals Podcast.
Right on. Jake, how about you?
So I'm actually inactive on a lot of social medias. Like, I'm really not active on Instagram, but I do have a YouTube channel called Speaking on Flicks. And there sometimes I'll make videos, but I just do a VR podcast with my father. And that's basically what we're posting on there. And I'm on Letterboxd. I do reviews. And you can find me at just Jake Gonzalez. That's it. Yeah.
Right on, right on. We will be back here at Downtown Cinemas this coming Thursday, April 3rd for Screamboat. Really looking forward to that one. It's going to be just a ridiculous movie and should be a lot of fun. And then we'll be at Maya Cinemas on April 10th for The Amateur, the new action film with Rami Malek. And hopefully we'll be announcing some more shows after that. But everybody, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, this is Wax Trax Records here on 2909 South Decatur. We buy all your old 45s, your old albums, any type of music memorabilia. Also, we sell music memorabilia, albums, CDs, and a lot. Come on down to Wax Trax, 2909 South Decatur, or give me a call at 702-362-4300. Thank you very much.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Death of a Unicorn. Thank you so much to Jake Gonzalez, Angel C, and Tia Bean for joining me on that one. And thanks to Downtown Cinemas for having us. And thank you to everyone who showed up at Downtown Cinemas. And then, of course, thank you to you for listening to this episode of Piecing It Together. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you're subscribed. We got a lot of episodes on the way. And like I said at the top of the show, we got another live show coming up. We also have a bunch of other episodes coming. So make sure you're subscribed. And while you're at it, maybe drop us a 5-star rating and review. It helps to make sure that more people check out the show. And follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. Join the Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. We also have the Patreon, the Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where you can check out bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, Awesome Movie Year, and from my music career. There might even be a video version of this episode. We'll see. As soon as I'm done editing this, I'm probably going to post that video. But anyway, lots of great stuff on the Patreon. I appreciate you just being there listening to the show. But if you want to support the show, you could also do that by signing up at patreon.com/bydavidrosen. So, with that said, I got to close this out with a piece of music like I always do. And if you've been listening lately, you know that I have a new album of songs about my pets that's coming out in a month. It's called Another One Already, but you just had one. It's the fourth album by the Pup Pups, my comedy, novelty, silly, ridiculous rock band about my pets, which my pets also sing on. And it's totally ridiculous. And if you act now in the next 2 weeks and get your pre order in, you can get your pet included on a special bonus song I'll be recording to finish up the album before it goes to print. You can do that at thepuppups.bandcamp.com. And right now, I'm going to play a song off that album. I don't have any songs about unicorns per se, but I do have a song about heaven. So I'm going to play Heaven from the new The Pup Pups album. Another one already, but you just had one. So I hope you enjoy Heaven, and we will be back with more piecing it together real soon. Going. Come on, come back.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.